Welcome to season 1 of Exploring Ancient Indian Wisdom for Global Kids with Guru Pashupati, a Himalayan Siddha Yogi. I'm your host, Bhavani Desai. When we started the podcast, the Mother Nature sent us those Siddhas here to watch us. We'll explore on an extraordinary journey into the heart of ancient Indian wisdom. But before we begin, let me share some fascinating facts about Guru Pashupati's journey from the spiritual Himalayas to the global stage. Trained in the immortal yoga of the Himalayas, Guru Pashupati explored deep into the secrets of the 6 immortal schools of yoga, mastering ancient texts and martial art techniques passed down through generations. 2 major events transformed his life. Leaving civilization to learn personally from Babaji and receiving the knowledge of removing karma from his guru. In August 2020, after enduring profound suffering, Guru Pashupati was blessed with the ability to liberate himself and his students from the burdens of the past karma. Now, armed with this transformative knowledge, Guru Pashupati is dedicated to teaching the world the ancient Himalayan martial art, a discipline that not only strengthens the body but also nurtures elasticity of our body and bravery in the face of adversity. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready to soar through the realms of imagination and enlightenment. Can you give us an introduction about yourself in a brief way?
For sure, for sure. I have been learning yoga ever since I was a kid. And I found that yoga that was taught back in the day didn't really answer any of the questions that I had as a kid. Like simple stuff like, what's this life about? And why are you forcing me to go to education? And what am I supposed to do, look forward to in life? How to be a good person? What is God? How to make God happy? These are all questions that I used to ask my parents because my parents were quite religious, and I really wanted to know what the fuss is all about. I wanted to understand it more deeply, but nobody knew. And then I was very frustrated also because as a kid I was bashed up by others. I had an accident when I opened up the electrical box and I put my hand in and I got electrocuted. So after that, I didn't have speech. I wasn't able to speak. It didn't affect my hearing, but I just couldn't speak. And it was that way all the way till I was 32. I just couldn't speak straight. I had to struggle to speak. It was so much concentration. It was worse, way worse than stammering, you know. So, but I learned how to be silent inside and accept that people would make my decisions before I can speak. And sometimes I learned to write really fast in a pad and then produce it to people. But because of that speech problem, I got bullied a lot. I got bullied a lot, called all sorts of names, and I couldn't even respond verbally. So I could only respond by beating people up. And then they started beating me up, and then it became some kind of cat and mouse chase where I couldn't even enter my house from the front door. I had to come from the back because they would be waiting outside my front door to beat me up. If my father's there, they wouldn't do anything. But when he wasn't there, then they were there. It was like the movies. So I didn't know what to do. Then one day I decided I'm going to go to martial arts class and find out how I can deal with 15 boys. How can I beat them up? I couldn't find it. I couldn't find out. Because nobody knew. They were all making me fight with one guy. And I'm like, no, I'm being hit by 15 people, not one guy. And they're like, no, you have to start with one person. Then after 15 years, you'll learn how to fight 15 people. And I suspected that he didn't know either, the teachers. So I was getting really frustrated and they were thinking I was really arrogant. But no, I wasn't arrogant. My life was in danger. So then I kept searching for different martial art classes. Nothing helped. But whatever little I knew, I tried. Whatever little they taught me, I tried I tried it against the boys and I got really badly beaten up. Then they took some cow dung, mixed it with some mud and applied it all over my face and my hands. And they made me to sit, they forced me to sit inside a gutter while they played cricket somewhere. So I was sitting there crying and I was not allowed to move from there because if I moved, they would beat me some more. Then I said, this is a good time to test if God really exists. And I said, Shiva, if you really exist, send me knowledge. Because I can't deal with this. I don't know how to deal with it. Nobody knows how to deal with it. I've tried looking everywhere. It's not that I haven't put efforts. I said, if you don't send me knowledge now, um, I'll have to accept that you don't exist. That's what I told Shiva. And I was ready to accept Shiva doesn't exist and then live a miserable life. But I didn't have to because he did send a guru. My guru was standing right there. He just came to me. He pulled me out of the gutter. I was scared to come out of the gutter because I thought I'll get bashed up. But those boys didn't do anything when they saw him. And he said, I'll teach you to fight. Come with me. And then he taught me to fight over the next few days. And in such a radical way, because he said you can't learn fighting by not fighting. You had to go into the street, pick a fight with someone, get bashed up. I said, I can't even talk. How will I pick up a fight? I was writing notes and showing him. And he said, just write a note like you do and give it to someone. Write an abuse and give it to him. I was like, really? And he said, yes. And then he saw there were some people standing there. He said, go and call him a pig. And I said, what? I can't do that. He said, just do it if you want to learn how to fight. You have to get them really mad. And when I did that, they're like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you talk? Why are you giving me this? And they were really angry. And I said, I had to write some reply. I wrote again pig in capital letters and I gave it. And they got really offended. So that's what happened. And then they beat me up. They beat me up really bad. And somehow I escaped. There was a train coming, so I ran across the tracks and then there was a train there, so they couldn't cross. And then I ran for my life. That's exactly what happened. Then my guru said, yeah, that was not bad. We'll try again tomorrow. And I'm like, what? And after a few days of doing this, I felt that these kids are nothing. I can handle all of them. And so I went there and yeah, I could handle all of those kids later. And I was like surprised at the amount of strength and power that his training methods taught me. And then he vanished. And then he came back when I was 18. When I was 18, I was already an entrepreneur. I had given a lot of money to my parents also, and they bought a house with it. So I was really happy. But then I was like, I'm not making any spiritual progress. I don't know anything about yoga. I'm trying to hold my breath for as long as I can. And I had reached about 8 minutes of holding my breath because I practiced so much. Then I said, what happens if I hold it till minute number 9? Why can't I fight this reflex and see what happens? Okay. Of course, science told me that I would die, but I thought maybe something else will happen. And it did. As I sat there meditating, I popped out of my body and I had no form. I couldn't see anybody, but I could see. I could see my body in front of me. And when I thought of a place, I could be there. When I thought of the front of my house, I was looking at the front of my house. And I was enjoying this freedom. Meanwhile, my body is dying because it's not breathing anymore. So then the bell rang and then I got dragged back into this body. And I didn't want to go back because the body feels heavy. It feels horrible. I didn't want to have a body anymore. I wanted to be bodiless. Then my guru had rung the bell then and I got sucked back into my body. And I didn't know how to get out again, but it was very painful and I was breathing like very heavily, trying to oxygenate myself. I came on my knees and hands to the door and he said, stand up. And I stood up. And then he said, you don't try to learn yoga on your own. I'll teach you. And when the time is right, you're not right now, go do all the normal things. And then when you're fully tired of that, then I'll come for you. I'm like, wow, I have to go do all the normal things like get married, have a job. And then he'll come for me when I'm tired of it. I'm already tired of it. I told him, he said, no, you don't even know what it is. And then he vanished. And then the same continued. And then he came back when I was 32, finally. So I was doing all these things. And I had even told my wife, my ex-wife, that this would that if this guru comes back, then I'll have to go. And she said, okay, it's no problem. Okay. So then he did come back when I was like 32, and that's when he took me with him to the mountains. So I had to come back to Bangalore, close all my businesses, um, and tell my ex-wife that it's over, and then I had to go. And so I went. I went to the mountains, and I stayed there for a year and a half or more than that, and experienced a lot of supernatural things, supernatural stuff that used to happen there all the time. And even my body transformed into a very strong and a body that doesn't age. And then I came back, but he told me to go back and teach yoga. Okay. So I said, okay. And I didn't realize how hard that would be. So that took a long time. And maybe 12 years later, I kind of learned how to teach yoga. And now that's what I do. I teach yoga. I mean,
It's
that's not
so,
half of it. There's a lot, but I just made it short for your podcast.
yeah, it's impressing me to like more learn about. Do you mind telling about more Himalayan experiences?
So in the Himalayas, we went by walk from Varanasi to Nepal. So we had to cross over, I think, some parts of Uttarakhand, and then it was really perilous journey, but it was made possible by my guru because he's got supernatural powers. Um, Sometimes he would just hold my hand and we would be in another place. So that's how we would go, and then there would be something there. We would meet someone there. I met a lot of sadhus in the mountains, and they're all living there just like how I am now. They don't wear any clothes on their upper body. They're completely absorbing the cold from their body. They're completely absorbing the sun. And I used to do the same. I had just one dhoti when I went there. And after some time with my practices, yogic practices, I was able to bear the cold. It was minus 25 degrees or something where we live. It is really high up in the mountains. It's it's called Ganesh Himal Parbat. So these are four mountains that when the snow falls on them, it takes the form of Lord Ganesh. So you see a very clear face and a trunk on these mountains. And there's a river flowing through these valleys, and it becomes the Mahakali River, which the Nepalis call the Kali Gandaki River. And in this river, it's very special. The stones there have been from the time when the Himalayas were an ocean. So a lot of them have shell fossils, and a lot of them they're just so black and so beautiful. And the river has turned them into really smooth, round, tumbled stones. And these are considered sacred in India. They're considered shaligram. So
yeah,
that's where you get shaligram. So each stone is considered to house Lord Vishnu. That's how sacred this place is. So when I was living there, I also saw some astounding things. My guru had a huge cave which was extending almost like, I don't know, maybe a kilometer inside. You can't say how big it was. And he had special flames there, burning eternal flames naturally coming out of the ground, and of I think nine different colors of flames, including a black flame, which I've never seen in my life. These flames used to burn there, and he had some kind of photoluminescent fungus on the walls. They were blue green kind of light used to be there. Only during certain times of the day. During the daytime, it would be there, and during the night, it wouldn't be bioluminescent. And then, yeah, so that's where I stayed. I stayed in and around that cave. But there's nothing to eat. So there was no eating. But you don't even have to eat because the ultraviolet light there is so strong that when it falls on your skin, you start producing whatever energy you need by itself. So what we get from our food is just electrons. And by the light over there, there's a photoelectric effect, and we can produce electrons in our cells, and everything that's needed for our body is taken care of. You don't even have to drink water,
Yeah.
because your body turns into the fourth phase of water. Okay, so water has four phases: ice, steam, and water. You've learnt about, but the fourth phase that they don't talk about in school is cloud. The clouds are electrically charged water. So its property changes and it becomes H3O2. It's a different lattice. It's similar to the lattice of ice, but without a hydrogen molecule. So, I mean, with a hydrogen molecule. So it's H3O2. And water is H2O. You know that, right? So H3O2 starts to form in your body, and all the water in your body gets converted to H3O2. And then you become light as a cloud. If you want to, you can float. You want to get some other place, you just got to meditate a little more till you can become light itself. And then you'll be recreated somewhere else. Your body can get recreated somewhere else. There have been like some amazing experiences like this. And I also met another guru of mine there. And I'm not allowed to speak about her or her name. But she taught me martial arts. And she told me that the martial arts that Babaji had taught me when I was a kid, is the same martial art. And then she started teaching me advanced versions of it. It's all about controlling 7 elements in your body. The 5 usual ones: ether, earth, water, wind, fire. And then the 2 unusual ones that nobody talks about, it's called Shakti and Ardhanari. So controlling these 7 elements is what she taught me. And that created a huge amount of strength in my body. Even now, I don't really look like I'm that strong, but when we practice over here, we practice this martial art here, and I asked my students to push a car, and they weren't able to push it because it's a slope. My house is on a slope, and there's a very mild slope, not a steep slope. So they weren't able to push it up the slope. And when I started pushing it, it was like just walking, and they were wondering like, how's the car moving like that up the slope, and this guy is just walking behind it. I put this video up on Instagram of me pushing a car up the slope.
I saw a video like in the 64-day challenges video. I saw where you say like leave the negative thoughts to Yama in the back.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really important technique for you kids. Did you
yeah.
know how to do it? Do you know why it is?
I was like just hearing that. Yeah, you can
Okay,
tell me
so let me explain for your audience why this is, because according to the Vedas and even according to the Mahapurans, the first Mahapuran that we have to read is called Devi Bhagavatam. Okay, in that you can understand that if for us God is a woman, God is female. Okay, not male. Even Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu come out of her. This is how we understand it. And it's the only religion, I think, with a female god. I've not come across another one so far. Maybe there are, I don't know, I'm not aware. But Sanatan Dharma is the only one that has this. So then Devi, we just call her Devi Mahamaya. Okay. Devi Mahamaya, in order to, when she created space, she gave guardians for all the 10 directions that we have: north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest, and up and down, the zenith and the nadir. So she gave us guardians for these. And what do these guardians do? They do different things that she's asked them to do. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 guardians. The guardian of the north is called Kubera, and the guardian of the south is called Yama. Now, Kubera's work in space is to make everything abundant. That's his job. He's called Yaksharaja, and he's also called Vitteshwara, which means the Lord of Wealth. Okay, so that's how you could translate it in English. That means all wealth flows by his command. And all abundance flows in your life by his command. So when we talk about wealth, it's not just money. Peace of mind is wealth, health is wealth, and so is a good relationship with people. A good reputation is wealth. Good fortune is wealth. All this is wealth. Okay. So it's not just money or assets or land. Or, it's not like that. It's more than that. It's spiritual. Real wealth is spiritual because it's our connection also to God. So Kubera is responsible for a whole lot of wealth. And whatever you put out towards him, he multiplies and gives it back to you. Okay. That's Devi's game. She's told Kubera, I mean, he knows he shouldn't be multiplying the wrong kind of stuff. But he just loves it. He will multiply and send it to you. That's why it's called Kubera. Kubera means foul mouth. Okay. So he just loves to speak in foul language. Kubera doesn't speak normally. He'll have a lot of expletives peppered into his sentence. And so that's how it is. Okay. So just think of Kubera standing there, and whatever you say to him, he's going to multiply and give it back to you. So you say something nice and wonderful, you're going to get some nice and wonderful energy back immediately, and you're going to have something nice and wonderful come in your life and expand, because that's what you spoke with intention to Kubera. But the stuff you speak without intention, even that gets amplified. So if you're not conscious about what you're thinking and you're looking straight, that's going to get amplified because Kubera is in front of you, the guardian of the north. Okay, so that also means for a human being, their north is their nose. That wherever your nose is pointing and wherever your shoulders and hips are oriented towards, that's your north. Okay, so Kubera is there. And now behind us, if we turn around a bit, there's Yama. Yama is the god of death. So basically his job is, it's like an inky black hole. He just pulls everything. It's just behind you, an inky black hole. Okay. It's not a scary thing. Just don't fall in it. Okay. It's very useful to put your negative thoughts. So all you have to do is either turn over your left shoulder or your right shoulder, as you prefer. Like that. And then you think whatever negative thing that is going on in your mind that's disturbing you. Okay. So as a child, you will get a lot of disturbing thoughts about your future, about how your friends treated you. I had a lot of disturbance because I was being bullied and not accepted by my friends. So if I had known this technique, I would have turned around and thought it. I would have turned around and just thought it. But I didn't know this then. Okay. But I think kids today can use this technique and just get rid of all your negative frustrations, anger, this is okay. Whatever it is, do you want it to multiply and come back? Ask yourself. If you don't, then you turn and think it. If you don't want it to multiply and come back, turn and think it. That's it. Such a simple rule. Even a child can learn it, right? So it's easy. And I've taught this to kids. I've taught this to lots of kids, and they've turned their life around with this one technique. So that's how powerful yoga is, and that's why you should learn yoga when you're very young.
Yeah. And I also tried the experiment for this. Like when you said, keep your hand like this and think about a negative thought.
Yeah.
And like when you try to press it, it becomes a kind of heavier.
Yeah.
And when you think of a positive thought, it's lighter than.
It's lighter. That's the electric water forming. When you think a positive thought, there's electric water forming all around your hand. It becomes strong. But when you think a negative thought, then it just goes back to being water and your hand falls. Okay. So there's a lot of water in us. Haven't you heard in school that we're like 70% water or 65% water or whatever it is? We're just basically cucumbers with anxiety, said someone. Just because we have a lot of water. The lymphatic system inside our body is totally made up of water. And it's an ocean inside. The blood, the lymphatic system and that. And if they start turning into an electrical form, they start circulating on their own. Do you know that the heart doesn't have power to pump your blood into your legs and then back again? The heart can't do that. It can only pump out. How's it going to pull it back up? Earlier, we thought it was like a motor and a pump. So it would push blood and then it would pump blood when it's beating. That's what we thought. And a lot of people are still taught that and they think that. But actually, the capillaries are smaller than your red blood cells. So the minor capillaries at the edges of your fingers and wherever, even on your skin and your eyes and whatever, the capillaries get into smaller and smaller um, dimensions, and they become so small that they're smaller than a red blood cell, and still the blood goes. Why is that? Because electricity folds that and it sends it. So it's sent electrically. Even the blood cells are charged. Everything in the blood is charged, and it's sent along by creating an electric potential difference. And do you know, if you put all our electric potential difference end to end, it's equivalent to lightning. One human being's electrical potential is the equivalent of bolts of lightning all the time. Okay, so that's really how much energy is there in a human being. And in yoga, we learn how to tap it, we learn how to store it, and we learn how to channel it by simple stuff like this.
Yeah. So let's go deep into the journey of ancient stories.
Mhm.
Can you highlight a specific moral or a lesson from an ancient Indian story that you think like resonates universally with children?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to tell you a story, which is one of my favorite stories. And it's about Ganesh. You know Ganesh? Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows Ganesh. So, what they don't know, what most people don't know, is that he was not born out of his mother's womb. He was he was born out of sandal and turmeric paste that she took off her body.
Yeah.
Okay, because she was interrupted in her bath by Shiva. He just walked in as if there's no problem, and he didn't ask permission before he came in to the bathroom. And she was annoyed. She's like, "You can't just walk in here however you want. You have to knock. You have to ask if you can come, and then you can come." And he said, "Come on, you're my wife. I can do whatever I want." Okay. So that's why she created Ganesh. Ganesh for me represents boundaries. Okay. The moral is boundaries. I'll tell you the whole story. But really, right at the beginning, you got to understand that you shouldn't allow others to do things to you that you're not comfortable with. And it's really so important. And if you just do that, you'll be happy. But when you start living life for other people and you're not living according to your true self, what you believe and what you think is right has to be thrown away just to accommodate another person in your life because you feel that, companionship is scarce and whatever. The goddess is showing you that you need to have boundaries in the story.
Yeah.
And she says, I will create a physical living boundary called Ganesh. And then she created this beautiful boy of around 12. That's it. He's around your age. Okay. And she said, you go stand outside, and no matter who comes, really, no matter who, including my husband Shiva, if he comes, do not let him in because I'm having a bath and I don't want to be disturbed. Okay. And then Devi's bath can take a long time. Okay. Because she's Mahamaya, it can take a long time. So while she was doing that, Shiva did come back.
Yeah.
And he felt entitled to cross the boundary and go. And Ganesh said, No, I'm not letting you cross. He said, Do you know who I am? I'm the warrior who's killed Tripura Asura, and I'm the warrior who's killed this Asura and that Asura. I made a list of all that. And Ganesh said, I'm not impressed. I don't care. You're not stepping past this boundary. Otherwise, I will kill you. And he's like, Who is this? I am such a big Lord Shiva. I'm the worshipped all over the world. And here's this arrogant boy who says, I cannot go to meet my own wife. Shiva got really back, angered, but with a sense of righteous indignation, although he had seen that he had violated Parvati's boundaries when she didn't want to be walked in upon, he'd violated it. So his anger blinded him. He didn't realize, oh, I've done something wrong and my wife's taken care of it so that I don't do it again. Wow, I have trust issues now with my wife. That's not what he thought. He was overcome by anger. And then he called his army of Ganas and he asked them, said, I'm not even going to touch you, you arrogant boy. My one Gana is enough for you. And he sent his Ganas. And Ganesha defeated all of them. He just like picked, dropped, threw them. He was in 10 places at one time. And it was a ferocious battle. And he's like, Shiva is like, my God, I've never seen anyone fight like that. I don't think even I can fight him. Okay. And so Shiva was like, but I shouldn't lose my dignity. What am I going to do? I'm going to call Vishnu. Because whenever he has had trouble in life, his best friend Vishnu comes to help. Okay. And so that's also the importance of friendship. Friends stand by you, real friends stand by you when you're in trouble. But when you're not in trouble, you'll have a lot of friends who are with you, but they may not stand by you when the trouble starts. Okay. I have another story from my life about this, but I'll tell you sometime later. So they do abandon you, a lot of people, but Vishnu never abandons Shiva, okay? And Shiva never abandons Vishnu. When he comes to earth as an avatar, then he takes an avatar also, like Hanuman. Hanuman is an avatar of Shiva, but he's come to serve Vishnu. So they have a very deep friendship, and it's a good example of what friendship has to be like, because you stand by your friend no matter what, which is what he did. Vishnu also felt that this is too much fighting about nothing, but he didn't say anything. He said, "Okay, Shiva, like if Devi's put this guy here, Vishnu is the biggest bhakt of Devi. Okay, he's like the biggest bhakt, not even Shiva. So Vishnu says, if this is what Devi wants, I'm going to make it dramatic." And then he took out his Sudarshan Chakra and cut off Ganesh's head from the back. And then he vanished. He knew what will happen when Devi finds out. So he cut the head off. And everybody's victorious, jubilant, and Ravi's like, what is all this noise outside my bathroom? And she's already mad. And then she opens the door and comes out and she sees her son lying in a pool of blood, his head severed. She gets so mad, she immediately turns into Kali, totally black, dark, and terrifying, and starts gobbling up the Ganas and the Devas who had accumulated there. Everyone is celebrating, start eating them up. And she was going to eat Shiva as well. And she was like, wait. I have a solution. And then she calmed down. She's like, what is it? How are you going to solve it? I said, not only am I going to solve it, I'm going to make it better than before. And she's like, that's impossible. I made this child. He said, no, I will make it better than before. He sent his Ganas. Go get me the head of the first animal that you meet. And the first animal they met was an elephant. And they brought that head. And he said, I've done this before. I have given my former wife, he was earlier married to Sati.
Yeah.
And he had got her father's head chopped off also. And then he fixed it back. He put a goat's head on him. Okay, so he's like, I've done this before, don't worry. And then he did it. And it turned out into a beautiful boy again, but this time with an elephant head, which was so unique. And he didn't look like anybody else. And so Shiva said, now you see his status, he doesn't look like anybody else. And he said, his status will be that before anyone reaches any god, they have to pass through him. Before anyone reaches any riches, they have to pass through him. Okay? Whatever work you want to do, he has the power to stop it if you don't please him. And he says he will be the friend of those who respect boundaries. Which means if somebody says no to you, and then you start convincing them, you lose the grace of Ganesh. Remember this. You'll have a lot of obstacles in that relationship. It just won't work. If somebody's saying no to you, then you say, okay, don't convince them. They have to get convinced by themselves. No amount of anything you say can convince them. That's what you have to understand. It's very hard to understand, very hard to accept our powerlessness at this moment when somebody's saying no to us. We are powerless because they said no. But we have to accept it because they are also created by Shakti and they also deserve boundaries. That's when you respect Ganesh. He'll bless you with something when this happens, okay? So you can say 100 Ganesh mantras, you can do 100 Ganesh yagyas, but if you're violating someone's boundaries, he will not respect you. He will not serve you because you violated boundaries. Devi is the one who came up with the concept of boundaries, and if you don't respect it, you're doomed. Okay. So my major work was in training people in this. I used to say the story to kids and train them. And then what happened is Ganesh became the most fabulous of the devas, and he started being fed everywhere by people because and he said people have made food out of love, so I'm going to eat it. And he loved food as well, so he ate it. And he had killed Mushikasur, so that guy was his Vahan. He became a rat, and he was an asura in the form of a rat, causing terror everywhere. So
Yeah.
Ganesha went and killed him. And then he was riding on Mushikasur, and then he had become really fat. And then he fell down. He rolled off. And Mushikasur couldn't hold him. He's like, boss, you've become too heavy for me. I can't carry you. And when he fell down, his stomach burst open, and all the laddus and sweets he had eaten started falling out. And he said, I got to fix this. So he caught a snake, and he tied up his stomach with a snake. And that's how his stomach got fixed again. The moon who was watching this couldn't stop laughing. Chandra. It seems that back in the day, in the heavens, the moon always was full. He wouldn't wax and wane. Okay, so there are a lot of meanings, hidden meanings in these stories.
Yeah.
The moon wouldn't wax and wane, but seeing him laughing at him, Ganesh is like, "How dare you laugh at me?" And he broke off one of his tusks and he threw it at the moon. And the moon is like, "Oh my God, please forgive me." And the tusk is on the way. And the moon is like, "Please forgive me, please forgive me. I'm sorry that I laughed. I'll do anything. Don't kill me." And so then Ganesh stopped the tusk, or he deflected the tusk. So it hit a bit of the moon, not directly. It didn't destroy the moon. It depleted a bit of his ego, that I'm so perfect, I'm so beautiful. All his ego got deflated, and then he became fully empty. And then Ganesh blessed him that since you've shown repentance, you'll become full again. And then you'll keep becoming empty again and you'll become full again. And then he also said, Devi will wear you in her head as an ornament. That's why you see Devi and Shiva also with the moon. So
Yeah.
this is what Ganesh did to the moon. But what can this teach us? First of all, don't know.
Everything in science has a story from the
Everything
Vedas.
is a story inside a story inside a story. Okay, so that's the reason you shouldn't fill yourself with literature that is negative. If you fill yourself with literature that's positive, that will multiply and come back to you. Where can you get positive literature that you trust? In the Mahapurans. Okay, so they have all the stories, and everyone should start by reading Devi Puran. And remember, these are not just stories. As you read them, you understand a new way to think about things, a new way that you haven't been taught in school and college, to think about things in a different way, in an unexpectedly different way. And that's where you can get really creative with your work. A lot of people and scientists have been inspired by stories in the Vedas, and then they've invented things, horrible things, of course, like Oppenheimer, who invented the nuclear weapon that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But he didn't know it's going to be used for that. But he had a lot of respect for the Vedas. That's when he could understand that science has just come to the Vedic concept again, because that's the only explanation they could find for how the world is, that everything comes from nothing. And science still tells you this, and it's true, that everything comes from nothing. So that is something we really need to understand. When we get deeper and deeper, by the time they found the word atom, India had been already talking about it. Bharat had been talking about it for 5,000 years already, about atoms. They found literature about it. We're like, wow. All our advanced science, there's literature here, and then there are these stories and two itihasas, Mahabharat and Ramayana. They're called itihasa because you need to understand the history of how you are. So the yuga we live in now is called Kali Yuga. There's one Manavantara, and the Manavantara is a universe in which human beings can exist. Okay? That is what Devi creates. She creates a universe in which human beings can exist. And see how lavish it is. There are many types of human beings. Obviously, it's not only us in this universe. There surely other human beings in other planets. They don't look entirely like us for sure. Okay. And I met some of them in the mountains. And this Manavantara on Earth, this is Bhuloka, Earth, our planet, uh, goes through four phases. There's one where it's the phase of extreme law and order, devotion to God, etc., etc. That's the first phase. Then Devi gets bored of that, and then she changes it into the Treta Yuga, which is a little bit of corruption. There is still a lot of faith in Devi, but there's a little bit of corruption. And then it begins the Dwapara Yuga. So in the Treta Yuga, we had the story Ramayana. And in the Dwapara Yuga, we had the epic story called Mahabharata. And in this Yuga, there will be another epic story. This is Kali Yuga, and the story is just unfolding. We don't know what the story is, but it's all written about. The future is written about in the Upanishads. Sorry, not Upanishads, in the Mahapurans. There is one of the Purans called Bhavishya Puran, which was written like 5,000 years ago. And it mentions a lot of things, including the coming of Islam, the birth of Muhammad. So many things are mentioned in the Bhavishya Puran, which is an undated ancient text, which of course now they're trying to date so to prove that it's wrong. But that's not how it comes. They may have been written down in a few thousand years ago, but these are eternal texts. They're called Shruti, Smriti. So they're floating around in the ether, these textbooks. And then when you hear it and then you write it down, that's called Shruti. So it's already a Smriti. It's like a memory. Every particle of the universe has a memory of these texts. And if you can tune into it with yoga, then you hear it as a Shruti. Then it comes out in your poetry. At the time, it was Sanskrit that people were speaking, so it came out as Sanskrit poetry. But during Tulsidasa's time, they were speaking Audhi. So it came out in Audhi. Okay. So whenever the rishis come, they take birth again, and then they start revealing textbooks. They start revealing textbooks in the language of the time. Okay. But it's not yet happened yet. We're just waiting for Vedic knowledge to come out in English. But right now, you can read Vedic knowledge in any Indian language because it's close to Sanskrit, and you'll still get the essence of it when you read the Purans. Okay. The Mahapurans. Sorry about that. Okay. So that's the value of stories. We don't give stories that much value, do we? We think, oh, it's just a story. No. Within the stories is all the information about how you should behave in society, about the meaning of life, about the purpose, about friendships, about relationships. Everything is there in stories, and we ought to learn what our ancestors have left for us so painstakingly. And once we start learning from stories, there's no stopping us. We can go anywhere. So I hope I answered your question, long-winded, but I hope you got your answer.
I got the answer. So, how can parents and educators use storytelling as a tool to impart values and wisdom to kids?
They have to have value and wisdom first. They have to have values and wisdom first. Then it's really, we struggle too much with imparting stuff to kids. You just have to sit them down and tell them a story. That's it. And whatever's there in that story as a lesson, they'll get it. They'll start learning it. Okay. So we have to be responsible with our stories. We should not say stories to kids that are giving you a wrong interpretation. So somebody wise has to do it. Somebody has to take that responsibility of being wise. That's difficult because people don't want to commit to being wise. So they have to commit that I'm going to be wise. So then this person should be living an exemplary life. Whoever is imparting, that's called a guru. So there's a very big difference between a teacher and a guru. A teacher is not expected to live an exemplary life. He or she can come to work, behave nice with the kids, go back and then have a drink and stay up all night and then have fights with their wife and the spouse, and then come back to school again the next day and still be nice with the kids. They're only expected to be nice to the kids for like 6 hours, and some of them can't even manage that. They're not able to be nice to the kids. Their own biases come up. So there's a big difference between a teacher and a guru. A teacher doesn't have any of this behavior. I mean, a guru doesn't have any of this wrong behavior. A guru is an exemplary person. So when my guru told me to be a guru, I realized that I had to live an exemplary life. So I started living my life as an example. I don't have lifestyle issues. You can see how tanned I am because I'm always out in the sun, getting sun, and that's why my skin glows. So people don't understand this, that they need to get sun. They don't get it. And if you're living in a very temperate zone, then there's no sun. That time you have to expose yourself to cold. And people are scared of cold and they're scared of sun, they're scared of rain, they're scared of putting their foot on the earth. So how will they become exemplary teachers? What is the example to follow? If we follow their example, we'll either get sick or we'll get cancer or something like that. Because people are not controlling how much of mobile they use and they're not even worried about using blue light at night on your eyes. It's the worst thing for your intelligence. It makes you emotionally disturbed. It just doesn't let your nerves work. Okay, but people do that. And then, a lot of kids today have problems with their sleep because they either get nightmares or they just kind of don't sleep well. They feel tired when they wake up because they're up with the light of the mobile all day. Your cell phone. It's a source of really unwanted, horrible light. All kids are in front of their laptops. So this is really horrible. You should be out in the sun playing. You should be climbing a tree barefoot. And that's how you learn. If I made a school, and I am planning such a school, I suppose I should be able to do it by 2026, 2 years from now. But my vision for the school is to have a lot of forest and a river and give kids things to do, like build a tree house or something. That's when they're going to learn how to work with each other, organize stuff, buy materials, get things done. Then I'm going to give them projects like farm your own food. That will make them learn so much. Now they have to learn about soil, they have to learn about acidity of the soil, they have to learn so much science just to grow a carrot, right?
Yeah.
That's how you teach kids, by making them do things. Then they really want the knowledge. If you give them knowledge which they don't want, they won't take it.
Yeah, when you said like people use a lot of like internet or like cell phone or whatever devices. Like in my school, we have to use our computers like whole day. So I went like
you know what? Soon they'll make you use those things which you wear. What are they called now? I don't even know what they're called. They're like virtual reality stuff, no?
Yeah.
Metaverse. People are gonna make you do that, and we'll teach you in Metaverse classroom number 45. And so you'll just sit at home and you soak yourself with blue light. And blue light also makes you put on weight because it releases a lot of sugar in your body. And to manage the sugar, the body turns it into fat. So anybody putting on weight, it's because of blue light. And so you really got to be careful about the light from you should hate your mobile. I think there's a lot. We think that, oh my God, if I don't go through this, I'm going to lose out on a lot. But really, wait for my school. I'm going to make kids smarter than anything the education system can churn out. Because that's how I got smart, living in the mountains. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
like, is there any kind of meditation or thing like to just a little like set maybe little avoid those stuff?
not
bad
meditation.
stuff?
You need to wear orange glasses at the end of the day. Could you get me my orange glasses? These glasses have to block blue light. So when you look at something blue, wearing those glasses, it should appear as green, or it should appear as, and you can make these at home. You can totally make these at home. So you just need orange film and you stick it on a regular pair of glasses. But you can also buy these by paying a lot of money on Amazon. Uh, we do both. I mean, this one I bought, but we can make it. You just put orange film, and that's it. Now, when I'm looking at blue things, they're all looking green to me. There aren't many blue things here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've looked at blue things earlier through this, and this is what you need to wear after sunset. The moment you do this, your health will improve. A lot of things will change in your body. You'll start sleeping better. You'll start burning off all the excess fat. Your body will become better. And then you need to soak in the sun as much as you can, or at least get outdoors if it's cold. Just get outdoors, bear it for some time and come back. Because the more outdoors you face, that's what's going to make your body beautiful. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what kids need to know. Like, I expect kids to be like monkeys, to be able to climb a tree, but they can't. It's so sad. I would climb a tree and the kids would be like, no, I can't come up, Guruji. So that's crazy, right? I
Like
think,
people say it depends on the food too, like the quality. Like people now sometimes they mix chemicals to grow
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying chemicals are good, but they're not as bad as the blue light.
Mhm.
Chemicals are bad too. I eat only organic food. I don't eat chemical food. I hardly eat any food because I get so much sunlight. I need to eat once a day. That's it. The rest
Yeah.
of it is just sunlight. All my energy is because of sunlight. Okay. I'm even doing this outside. I don't want to sit inside the room and then speak to you. Some
Yeah.
outdoors. Yeah. So the thing is that we need to start respecting the outdoors as a kid. You need to demand that your parents take you outdoors if they're not letting it go outdoors. This is something that you need to expect this from your parents, that there is an opportunity for you to go outdoors every day. Because if you do that, then you'll start learning some of nature's wisdom. Okay, nature is Mahamaya, Devi. So you can read Devi Puran. That's half the knowledge. The other half of the knowledge comes from being outdoors and allowing her to touch you as sunlight, as cold, as the earth, and as food and as sleep. She touches you as sleep too, right? We just interrupt
Yeah.
sleep all the time. People go to sleep with the mobile in their face like this. Are they going to have any health? I don't think so. They don't even put the mobile away when they eat. They're eating. They don't know what they're eating. And they look at the
Yeah.
mobile. It's so crazy. It's crazy. I know people who go to the bathroom and then have to hold the mobile and scroll, and they got a waterproof thing on their mobile so that they can use it in the shower.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just so glad that it's illegal to use it while driving, or we would have so many accidents. It's crazy. I think we should all throw away our mobiles and start reading a book like Devi Bhagavatam, Devi Puran. That's a good book to start with. Anyway,
Yeah. So, are there elements in ancient Indian stories that you believe provide unique perspectives on character development for young minds?
all of them do. Like the story I told you, it's already taught you how to respect boundaries, and it's already taught you about having consequences. Like power, power is the foundation of being able to have boundaries. If the moon laughs at you, you got to have a consequence for the moon. Otherwise, the moon's going to continue laughing at you and violating your boundaries, insulting you, bullying you. It's going to continue unless you can provide a consequence. Okay. So we should stop being entitled to fair treatment when we don't have the power to give consequences to those who don't treat us fair. This sounds like a militant teaching in today's liberal era, but it's there in our Puranas. If you read it, you'll understand it. It's there. Yeah, it makes sense. And then you can start understanding it. This is spiritual knowledge, which is being erased. People are feeling entitled to fair treatment without having any power. Power is justice is the privilege of the powerful. We don't understand this basic truth about Devi's world. That's how she made the world. And she's put it in the Puranas. And she's shown that you should develop power. You get hungry to develop power, and I will, and make a proposal to me, is what she says. Make a proposal to me about something amazing that you're going to do, and I'll give you the power to do it. So she comes in three forms of power: Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. Let's look at what they are. Ichha Shakti is purpose, Jnana Shakti is knowledge, and Kriya Shakti is power. The power to do things. Let's say I'm looking for a new house, and I just call a friend of mine who's a real estate agent, and he finds me a new house without me struggling. That's called power. Okay. Power is the ability to influence skilled people to work for you and with you. That's what it is. And when you're able to influence skillful people with your vision, then you become powerful. If you don't have a vision, they can't get behind it. They can't agree with you. You have to get a whole lot of people in agreement if you want to do something great. If you want to stop polluting rivers, you have to get a whole lot of farmers who are using pesticides to get an agreement not to use it. Which means you have to really work hard on finding that purpose. And you need to get behind it. You need to really believe in it. If you really believe in clean waters, it will happen. You'll be able to influence so many people, and it will happen. You'll find the right kind of knowledge. And that knowledge is also there in Devi Puran. There are so many teachings of how to influence people. The book, How to Influence People, looks like a joke in front of the Devi Puran, because there are just so many ways to get power. So it comes by influencing the mind of someone else. It's called Vasha. And there's a Devi for it. She's called Vashini. And her story is also there in the Devi Puran. So there are lots of stories. We have stories pouring out of our ears in ancient Bharat. And I think we should start there. There's no other culture that has so many stories. They run out of stories after some time.
Yeah.
You could read Bharat stories for your whole life, 100 years, and you wouldn't have finished them. You know?
Yeah.
All right.
So, can you recommend any modern adaptations or creative projects
Yes. There's been a wonderful work done by a Mumbai-based comic book company. It's called Amar Chitra Katha. I recommend all kids read it. Just get as many volumes and titles as you can. They even have an app, so you can read it online. But sit in the sun and read it, because if you're going to use your mobile, then at least be out in natural light, because it cancels out the bad light of the mobile. Okay.
Yeah.
And do not use your mobile at night as much as you can. I mean, if you really have to, then you use these. You're anyway going to slap these on as soon as the sun sets. And then you'll start feeling sleepy. You won't want to use your mobile. You'll feel like that. Oh, it's so distracting and horrible. Nobody feels like that towards the mobile. You know why? Because bitter things become sweet, and sweet things become bitter. And there's a story for that also. There's a Rakshas who sits in our ears, on your left ear. It's called Madhu. Okay. There's another Rakshas, Kaitava, who sits in the right ear. Now, the only way to defeat these Rakshas, which is hidden. This is a hidden thing inside the Devi Puran. Okay, I found it, and I got it validated also with my guru, and also practicing it on so many students. Okay, how it works is it creates a parasympathetic response inside your body, and it makes you immune to this habit of making bitter things sweet and sweet things bitter. We know sometimes that's when we lose our conscience. We lose our conscience when we don't know what is sweet and what is bitter. Then we take the side of bitter, and we do a lot of wrong things. So we really need to do right from wrong, sweet from bitter. So if you want to develop this and always be able to make good choices, always be able to know whether something's good for you or not good for you, whether someone is good for you or not good for you. These are questions children in their teens ask me. How do I know if someone's good for me or not good for me? They're talking about friends, they're talking about relationships, they're talking about all these things. They're getting interested in other human beings. When you're up to a certain age, it's just you, and the whole universe rotates around you. But when you get to your teens, you start noticing other human beings, and you're like, oh yeah. Or if you're when you're young, it's just you and a friend, and you don't care about anything else. It's usually like that. So,
Yeah.
but then you start caring about other people, and you're like, wow, how can I get the cooperation of hundreds of people? How can I get the cooperation? How can I be liked by these people enough that they want to do what I want to do? You know. So
Yeah.
these are questions children have on their mind. You need to practice this 5,000 times. What I'm going to teach you now, and it's neighing like a horse. Now this mic will not capture it, so let me try some audio settings. Just a minute.
Mhm.
I just want to see if it's coming because it does catch my voice. I'm going to put it in high fidelity, music mode, echo cancellation. Okay. All right. Now you have to give me feedback whether you can hear this or not. Okay. And,
Yeah.
and does it sound like a horse or not?
Mm. Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can. It does sound like a horse.
Okay, great, great. Because the last time I did this on Zoom and it wasn't sounding like a horse. So I did some noise cancellation and all that because there's a lot of traffic out here. Can you hear the traffic also now?
No.
You can't? Okay, but you did hear the horse? Okay. So that's exactly what you got to do. If you are able to do this 5,000 times, and I was very lucky that my neighbor was a jockey and he brought a horse of his favorite horse, brought it home every day. He didn't let it in the stable. It would come in a horse van back to the house. So, and then I would start talking to the horse because that would be the time that I got back from school. And then I would just spend all my time talking to the horse. The horse would say, and I'd reply, and have a whole conversation with him. But by doing this, your entire brain gets reset. I don't know exactly how it works because somebody's got to study it and see how it works. But people don't even know this technique exists. So they're not even going to study it right now. But you don't have to wait for the research to come out about how it works, but you can use it right away. And when you start doing this even 10 times, you feel better emotionally. Sweet things are sweet, bitter things are bitter. You can suddenly say the truth, take decisions, and make things better. But otherwise, you keep wallowing in self pity. You'll keep feeling, oh my God, the world has been so unfair to me. I feel so sorry for myself. And look how all these people, evil people, treated me. And then your life becomes a drama, an unwanted drama that you don't want. Okay. So if you want to stop Madhu and Kaitava is the one that scrambles your thoughts, and Madhu is the one who makes bitter things sweet and sweet things bitter. Okay. So if you want to get out of the grip of these two, you have to practice this 5,000 times and you do it 200 times every day for 25 days. That's how you do it.
Mm.
Okay. So take some time. It's really funny when you do it. You start laughing also. You just go, think you're a horse and you go,
Yeah.
I hope the sound got captured. Anyway, so that's how you do the horse thing.
Yeah. I started doing it from past 2 days. The first
Did
day it was
you?
kind of funny,
Oh,
but
yeah. How do you
yeah,
feel?
but
How do you feel after doing it?
yeah, first I used to
Emotionally, emotionally, how do you feel?
yeah,
What's
like
the difference?
when I sat and thought about it, I was like I used to ignore my father a lot. Like whenever he says something like I used to be like, oh my God, why does he irritate me or something like that? And then like I I felt like okay, let's try whatever he says.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
it started like changing my thoughts inside
yeah.
me.
It's making you a more empathetic person right away. And it's going to do a lot more. So please finish the 5,000 days and you'll be immune to bad behavior that human beings do and hurt each other, you know. So you'll be immune to all that. You won't be able to do that behavior. You'll be like, nah. And you can see it when someone else is doing it to you. You're like, this is bad behavior. You'll be able to point it out. You know, that's power right away. It is. You know what the richest people have? You know how they make millions, billions? Do you know? By the work of other people, which means they have so much power that they can influence so many people to work for their goals. Their vision is so big that it inspires a whole lot of people to come and work for them. Like Elon Musk, for example, right? He has so many employees. Why are they all working there? And they're not like ordinary employees. They're making rockets. Why are they all going and working there? Because he's able to influence them. And that's the reason he's a billionaire. Okay. So if you really want to be, if you really want to be even wealthy or respected in society, it all starts with empathy. It all starts with thinking about what other people are thinking and what's happening in their mind and completing their thoughts in a way that makes sense for them. So that's really what we need to learn. That's the secret to riches. It's not education. It's not your qualification. It's not your position that makes you rich. It's your ability to influence people.
Like, can you give us can you tell us how to avoid these lazy thoughts? When you like, it happens to me like when I try to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I be like, okay, it's just 5. I can just sleep for 5 more minutes and then wake up, and then I suddenly start sleeping again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like kind of lazy
I mean,
thought.
just try this tomorrow. Turn onto your side, turn to your back and say, wouldn't it be nice if I could sleep somewhere? Say it to your back and Yama will take it. And you'll be like, oh, I feel like getting up now. And you'll get up.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's a superpower. Overuse it. Use it everywhere. Okay, don't think, oh, I learned it in this context. I'm only going to use it in this context. No, use it everywhere.
Yeah.
But to know that this is not a sweet thought. You see how lying in bed seems sweet to you, but it's actually bitter? Because
Yeah.
later in the day you realize, oh shit, I could have gotten up and got so many things done, but I didn't do it. Because when you see that, you know, you can then see that this is bitter. So anything bitter, you think behind. Don't think them to the front. They'll multiply and come back to you.
Yes.
You can do it
So-
even while you sleep, saying, oh, it's so nice to lie in bed. Or whatever. Say it behind you. Like, I can't.
Yeah, like when I want to do work, like when it comes to essay in English, to write an essay in English,
Uh-huh.
we literally hate writing essays.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like we have to do a lot of research, and then we have to do like an outline, and then we have to write the essay.
Mhm.
It's like, oh my God, okay. When it's like, okay, today's Monday and it's due on Friday.
Hmm.
So I'd be like, oh, I have 4 more days to do.
You know, everything
Oh,
you said, everything you said, Bhavani, I want you to say it to your back.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. It's like whenever I
You don't have to say it. Turn your head. Wait,
I
you feel, wait a minute. I don't believe in psychology. Okay, so what you're trying to tell me, ask me, is a psychological solution. That doesn't exist. Psychology has never solved anyone's problem. It's only like made them feel a little better or made them feel like they are empowered, but they've always struggled with it. Okay, so I had a student who had OCD, and she would go on washing her hands all the time. She can't stop it. She just has to keep washing hands. She knows they're clean, but she has to go and wash it. And they're trying to teach her cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not working. Okay. Finally, I said, yeah, look around and say, I want to wash my hands. She said, what kind of ridiculous treatment is this? I said, it's ridiculous, but it works. Do it. So,
yeah.
so just do what I'm asking you to do. So turn your head and just think.
Okay.
Just think to all these things. Oh my God, look what I do with the English essay. I keep postponing it. I keep doing all these things. And just one day before this, what I do, everything you wanted to tell me, go and tell Yama.
Yeah.
How do you
I
feel?
know it's lazy.
You feel amazing relief after that. You feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Something's lifted from you, and you'll
I
never
kind
have
of
to
feel
feel.
I kind of felt some inner energy here.
Yeah, yeah. And you'll never do that again. You'll say like, yeah, I don't want to do this. And if you ever feel like doing it again, you still turn back and think you feel this amazing energy again. And it is so easy. You know how couples should argue? Put two chairs with the backs to each other, turn around and argue with each other. Because Yama will take all that stuff. All the argument will be gone. This is not how marriage counselors make their money. This is not what they teach them. They keep counseling and counseling and counseling and counseling, and then after like many years of counseling, they still get divorced. Okay. So these are tools that every kid should have. Because kids can have faith and experiment. They didn't learn so much science that they think this is not scientific. You know, either you have to learn a lot of science to know that this is scientific, or you have to have like a little, like no knowledge of science, and you'll think, yeah, this is scientific. Let me try it and see. This is a scientific approach. You try something and you see if it works. For the most unlikely reason, it works because Yama is there. But then science will be like, oh, so Yama is an electromagnetic field? No, he's a deva. What is a deva? A deva is a sound being, a being made of sound vibrations. They're like, what? Yes, devas live in Swarloka, also called Swarga, which is it's only sound and it's parallel to our universe. You know, like multiverse you see in Marvel, they got it from us. Okay, and then wow, really? That's a deva? Yeah, that's what it is. And how do I measure this? Science is not that advanced enough yet, but you can still talk to Yama. Just stop calling him an electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Okay.
What role do you think imaginative storytelling plays in fostering creativity and empathy in global kids?
That's what first thing is does. I'm glad you asked this because empathy is the most important thing even for creativity. Creativity is empathizing with a whole lot of ideas and then creating some new idea out of it. So if you cannot empathize, by empathize I mean to really totally feel how that thing feels. I look at a tree and I feel how does that tree feel rooted into the ground, and I really try to understand how it feels. And it's wonderful. You should do this with all the animals, right? We call it samyama in yoga. Like you see an animal and you think, what is that animal experiencing right now? Here's a bird picking some stuff off the floor, of the ground. How it, how must it be experiencing that? And you try to put yourself in that. That's called empathy. Okay, so you should practice empathy. I would suggest to start practicing empathy with animals in the beginning because then that's a nice place to practice empathy because animals are not messed up mentally mostly unless it's a house dog or a house cat. But out in nature, usually the animals are not mentally messed up. So it's nice to empathize with a bird, empathize with a tree, because a tree doesn't have mental problems and anxiety, right? So when you start empathizing with these other beings who are there with you, then you also will learn how to be without anxiety. Whoever you empathize with, you will learn. If you wanted to be like them, you could. It's still a choice. So when I get students, they usually come to me after they failed with psychology and everything else, medicine and psychology. They failed with medicine and psychology, and then they come to me. And then I tell them, okay, now you have to forget that you know anything, and you have to do what I tell you exactly. They say, okay, and they're able to do it. So then I tell them to go out in nature and start empathizing with trees and plants and everything, and they do it. And you know, they get better. Okay, so empathy is a very important thing. And these stories, like I told you, when you listen to the stories itself, you're already in empathy with the character. When I start telling you Ramayana, you're already like, yeah, I hope Rama wins this. It's a bigger story than Harry Potter, man.
Yeah.
Nobody in the West has written this kind of literature. In English, such literature doesn't exist. So the Ramayana is, that's why it's called an epic. The word epic was used to describe Ramayana and Mahabharata. If it's like Ramayana and Mahabharata, then it's epic. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but you have to, as you read these stories, you just start evolving as the character evolves through the stories. Some of the stories are short, like the one about Ganesh that I told you, but that's not the end. If you read Ganesh Puran, then you will get the whole stories of Ganesh. There's so many stories you don't even know. Same with Hanuman. People know only a little bit about him, but then if you go on studying, there's so many stories you can know. And you can empathize with all the life situation that he's going through. And then you see someone else going through a similar real bad time, and you see the difference in behavior from Hanuman versus them. So you can empathize with them, and then you can also help them creatively to grow from there. Okay. So that's why you should be a bag of stories. I would recommend kids to start with Amar Chitra Katha. And once you finish reading all those titles, start reading the actual translations in an Indian language if possible, because the English translations are so bad. English doesn't have words to describe certain things, especially spiritual phenomena. English words are too limited. If I say prana, there's no equivalent English word, you know, for example. If I say chakra, there's no equivalent English word. If I say
Yeah.
kundalini, there's no English word. But so that's why you should read it in an Indian language if you can. All right.
Hmm. So, how do you see the impact of cultural storytelling in shaping a sense of identity and belonging for children around the world?
I mean, every culture has its own stories.
Yeah.
And I think I would insist that you become familiar with the culture that you come from and the stories that they have. If you don't have it, then search for it. Because really, the story of Christ is about 24 years old. That's it. But there was stuff before that your ancestors used to follow before they became Christian, before they became Muslim, before they became anything that is a mainstream religion. There is a bunch of stories. So if they've written it somewhere, then you can get to know. Or if they've left you monuments that lasted the ages, the ravages of time, then you can go there, stand at those monuments, like Stonehenge, for example. You go stand at these monuments, and then there's so many in America, just so many ancient monuments, because the American people do not have a history beyond when they came to the Americas. If you go back, then they don't know much about why they left. Their ancestors left and came here from across the ocean. So,
Yeah.
how about going to the Native American sites and really soaking in the culture of the land on which you live and understand their words and learn their stories? Native Indians have a lot of stories. They haven't lost their stories. So if you live in America, go and get Native Indian stories. It's the land where you now live. Start to belong to the land. That's very important. So every land has its story. In some
Yeah.
lands, it's like even in Ireland, there's been a wipeout of their stories. When the church came there, it wiped out all their stories. But now people are going back and they're like, wow, we really need to understand why we're so unhappy. And let's find out from our stories. And people are going back to their stories, are finding out solutions to the problems from the past, from the stories of the past. So I think it's very important. The modern history is biased. It didn't build a culture, it only divided cultures. But ancient history built cultures. So there's something about those stories. And we need to listen to them, no matter from which country it is. There's always something to learn.
So basically, when I kind of researched about Gandhar, it's in Afghanistan. As people say, it's called Kandar now. I I wanted to know I searched for the history of Kandar. I went to the Wikipedia. Like there was nothing mentioned from ancient things there. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's a shame. It's a shame that these things have not been published or written about, because Wikipedia would also accept stories
Mhm.
which are published on a blog, on a reliable blog. It's sad that such a reliable blog of ancient stories doesn't exist. Why don't you do something about it, you and your friends? I'm happy to help you get directions. If you want to know where to find the information about Kandahar, which was formerly known as Gandhar, then I can point you into the right references in the Puranas where this has been mentioned, and then you can read upon that, and then you'll have a fuller idea of what happened in that area. So within our Puranas and Itihasas, and it's not a small volume of books. Okay, I mean, each Purana has around 20,000 verses,
Yeah.
and all rhyming in Sanskrit. Can you imagine
Yeah.
20,000 verses? So there are like, that means two lines. So for 40,000 lines. And it's a lot of volume. So there are 18 Mahapuranas. And if you look at the Upapuranas, there are so many more. And then there is the Itihasas, which is, which epic means epic. I don't know how many verses there are. I don't remember. But it runs into hundreds of thousands of verses in the Ramayana alone and in the Mahabharata also. So you need, we people, by the sheer volume of it, people haven't investigated and written what's in it. But then we need to do it with a lot of people. We can't do it alone. If we investigate and put all that on Wikipedia, then we can refer to it. The article on Ramayana is very short on Wikipedia. Indians have to make it longer. Those who research. Okay, that's one of my projects, to put up all of these things. Yeah, and you know, you should get started on these kind of things if you like stories, and also adapting them for kids, and like making them into like series, make a web series, animated web series of this or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
These are all things kids can learn how to do. Instead of saying your life sucks, if you do these things, you'll see it gives you meaning and it gives you joy.
Yeah. So, are there any specific storytelling techniques or like engaging formats like
Mhm.
that you find effective in captivating the attention of
Yeah,
like
so all our formats and including the Upanishads are like conversations. It's between somebody and the other. So even the tantras are written like that. Shiva talking to Parvati. So they describe the scene, they build the background, and they say this is happening, and this conversation ends. Here's what Shiva said, and here's what Parvati said. You know, so that's the amazing way to storytell, where you keep it conversational and less narrative. You would only describe the scene very briefly and then get right into the conversation. And in the conversation, you know, when we talk, you and me have been talking for a long time now. We started
yeah,
at like 7:40, almost 2 hours. No, it's 20 minutes less than 2 hours. So
yeah,
how did we get carried away into a conversation this long? And it must be late for you, and you must be sleepy, and you're still sitting here with your eyes open. You see?
yeah. I'm
Why?
interested. So,
That's what I'm saying. So a conversation is the most interesting way to tell a story. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Because conversations keep going, and then you keep track. It gives work to your brain because you have to keep track of this character and that character. When you hear the stories in the Quran, there are so many characters, and the names are strange, which we've never heard now. That we just don't even have names like that now. So you hear all this, and you keep hearing those ancient names from another yuga, and then you start remembering them, and it forms different neuroconnections in your brain. You know, someone like Andrew Huberman were to study people while they listen to stories, he would find out something. Researchers would find out something amazing that's happening in your brain as they listen to stories. But since there's no such research, you just have to listen to stories and you find out for yourself.
So, in your experience, what aspects of ancient Indian stories have like the most positive responses from kids during your interactions?
I think the ones where people have a technique or a lesson, they're the ones which get the most response. And like the ones I told you today, they all have a technique and they have something like a lesson or a guideline, because that gives you a clue about how you should live your life. So it helps you to make decisions and helps you to be less confused. That's why.
Yeah. Mm. So, how can we strike a balance between preserving the authenticity of ancient Indian stories and
Hmm.
making them relevant to young audiences?
And making them what? I'm sorry?
Making them relevant to young
Relevant.
audience.
Okay. Yeah. So how to be authentic and relevant? Is that what you're asking me? Well, always read the stories from the source text, or in an Indian language. Do not do not read the English translations because they're not so good and English doesn't have so many words. So that's one way to keep it authentic. And also you need a guru's guidance to understand the deeper meanings. You can get the surface meaning even if you don't have a guru, but having a guru to guide you while you read it gives you more authenticity. And you know, if you want to make stories relevant, you have to have a lot of empathy already. You have to have heard a lot of stories already. So you have that empathy to understand what's going on in people's mind. Because even in the stories, you'll understand what's going on in people's mind because they're telling you, oh, they thought this, and then your mind will use that information like AI and create an answer for why your friend didn't behave nicely with you or why your teacher is mad at you. You'll be able to understand that it works like AI. The data comes from the Puranas, the real life situation comes, and then your mind makes up like AI an understanding of it. Using all the data from the Puranas, you're able to understand real life situations. So that's the beauty of stories, right? So it's always relevant. People can just listen to stories, but you don't have to tell them exactly what it does. You can tell them some of what it does, but it actually does a lot more and it does different things for different people. So the idea is just to listen to stories without an agenda, just take in all the data. That data is going to help you understand because these stories are very compassionate stories. They're not violent, wild stories. So when you they're selected carefully by rishis, not by some ad hoc process. They've been very carefully selected over years by the rishis as beneficial to mankind, not just Indians, but beneficial to mankind. Okay, because we have a belief which says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the whole earth is our family. Who says this? Only in Bharat. Okay. So when we say this, we mean it. We are ready to share our knowledge with everyone as long as they come here with respect and with the right kind of attitude. That's it. Just don't be disrespectful to what we do. And then you'll learn it. People will teach you. Gurus will teach you. Nobody will turn you away. If you're a foreigner, if you're a woman, if you're of some other race, yoga doesn't discriminate. Some other gender, no discrimination. We don't care. Okay. So that's how it is. And we don't even discriminate by religion. I have Muslim students, I have Hindu students, I have Christian students, Buddhist students, Sikh students, and Jain students. So
Yeah.
that's it. It is relevant to everyone. So remember that. Bharat stories are relevant for everyone. Just take it. It's world heritage.
Yeah. Can you share a personal attitude about a child's reaction or engagement with an ancient Indian story that left a lasting impression on you?
Yeah, well, lots of stories. Okay. But there is a story about Hanuman, which I used in a government school. So they called me to a government school and they said, Guruji, these children are basically trying to kill each other. Even the teachers are scared of them because they attacked the teacher one day with a knife. Okay. So really bad, really bad. This was in Pune. And most of these kids live under a bridge or something, and they're just coming there for an education and nobody is able to teach them anything. They're not able to concentrate on anything, right? So I went there and I did storytelling with the kids. I told them the story of Hanuman. And I told them the story of how Hanuman got cursed so that he would lose memory of how great he was. And he would have to be reminded by others of how great he was so that he doesn't uh, so that his ego doesn't grow. Okay, something like that. So it was both a gift and a curse. But Hanuman, of course, was very well behaved and had great reputation, had a great reputation. Okay, so then they learned about reputation. Then I asked them, how's your reputation? What's your reputation with the school? Like rowdies, what do you call them? Gangsters, thugs. That's your reputation. Like, are you okay with it? They're thinking about it. And I said, all right. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to use this Hanuman technique that we remind each other how great we are. Okay. So everybody has to do it. So I put all the kids in a circle and I put one kid in the center and I said, you go to each person around the circle and they're going to tell you how great you are. And the kid was reminded how great he was. And I just did this exercise every day. There were like 40 horrible kids, like gangsters. And I made them go around, tell each other how great they are. And they had to think of a new thing every day. You can't say the same thing again to the same person. So they had to think of 40 new things to say about 40 new kids every day. And they did it. And we did this for 40 days till all the kids were over. I mean, we would give one kid a chance every day, Just we didn't have much time. We had like 10 minutes before classes, and that just changed the behavior of that kid for that day. And then over 40 days, the behavior of all of the kids changed because they started saying good things about each other. And guess what? They didn't stop this exercise. They're probably still doing it.
Yeah.
And now that these guys have grown up, they started running businesses. They're living a decent life. They would have gotten killed if they had become criminals. So I could save them. So this is the power of storytelling. Okay. You just tell someone Hanuman's story, Ganesha's story, you'll start pulling out morals out of it. They'll understand something. There'll be a technique. That's the beauty of the Puranas.
Yeah, sometimes this happens. Like I've seen a lot of time. Like for me, my sister too. Like when I know the problem, when I know the solution, but like I can't utilize the solution there.
That means you
It's
don't
like
know the solution. It's not a right solution. Give me an example. What do you mean? How can you know the solution and not utilize it? Tell me.
okay, like I asked you about laziness and stuff, and you like I knew that I could use Hagrid pranayam for that, but still I was like confused.
Yeah, because bitter things are sweet and sweet things are bitter. So you have to do your 5,000 Hagrid pranayam.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, this podcast is packed with techniques for kids to use, but really, Hagrid pranayam is the basis. If you don't do Hagrid pranayam, then bitter things seem sweet. Sweet things seems bitter. A sweet thing like this technique, you couldn't use it. It turned bitter in your mind.
Yeah.
Even though you know that it's useful, you can't use it. Isn't that crazy? That's called the work of Madhu. We have an explanation for this. It's not a psychology explanation, it's a spiritual explanation. And when you do this, do it 5,000 times. Be in a hurry. If you can do more than 200 nays a day, go for it. Do 500 nays a day, it'll be over in 10 days. It's intense. If you do 500, it's intense. 1 or 2 is not intense. When you do 500, it's just, you'll be in meditation after some time. You won't even find it funny anymore. You'll be just like, wow, that felt really good. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. That's what you'll say. Okay. And then when you say, I don't want to study essays, I don't want to do the research, I don't want to study essays. No, this is what you should do. I don't want to do essays. I don't want to, whatever. I don't want to, I hate English. Da, 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 say it all. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I feel better about English. You know, English gives
Yeah.
me a lot of distress too. I hope that 10 years later I can forget every word of English I know so that I can only speak in Hindi or Kannada. Because the language gives me distress because the way everything is spoken about is completely different and unemotional and cold. It's not like Kannada where everything has got emotion, it's loaded with emotion, or Hindi where everything is loaded with emotion. You know? So that's why I feel like I'm speaking science with my friends if I speak English. But if I speak Kannada, I feel like I'm actually speaking to them.
Yeah.
So I understand the distress that you get from having to write English. But you have to do it because otherwise you will alienate yourself in the world in which you are. You have to master the language of the land. Okay. I'm not a Kannadiga. I am from Kerala, but I speak good Kannada because I stay here. This is my land. I drink the water of Kaveri, I'll speak Kannada. Okay. I don't know what water you drink, but you have to speak that language of the land. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an honor you do to the whoever's occupied the land right now. And the honor you should also do is to the Native Americans and learn about their culture. Don't just learn only
Yeah.
about your culture.
I have a lot of friends like from other
But they wouldn't
religions.
remember their culture either because they don't find their stories cool.
Yeah.
They find Hollywood cool, but I don't know what they find cool anymore. They find influencers cool now,
Yeah.
but not their ancient culture, which is pretty sad. Because if you even started a channel on ancient culture and you started to teach people about it, then you'd be cool suddenly.
Yeah. Like my channel is like it's Indian exploring, so
Good.
I kinda like yeah.
Yeah, it's great. This is a good start. You made a really long podcast now with a lot of value. So good job.
Yeah. I actually had no value about it. I was like, oh my God, why should I do this? Okay, I'm gonna do this just for time pass and stuff. And then when it reached until like 1K subscribers, and then I was like, oh my God, did I do this stuff? And I was like, yeah,
That's great. I'm going to check out your channel. Please send me the link.
yeah, sure.
Great. So, do you have anything else to ask me? Because I got to run now. It's been 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you should
And
get to bed too.
so, yeah, in conclusion, to say what I learned is like there are a lot of way to find a solution for a problem you have.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that you understand this. Yes.
yeah,
There are creative ways to solve problems. And just if somebody says it can't be done, it just means they don't know how. But they don't know how, but they say it can't be done as if they know about it. That's arrogance. That's human arrogance. We should avoid it. Never say anything can't be done. Say, I don't know. That's correct. Okay,
yeah.
great. All right. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
I'll see you in the next podcast. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your.
Thank you too. It was great. See you.
Thank you for joining us today on this exciting exploration. In our next episode, connecting to traditions, festivals, and rituals, we'll immerse ourselves in the vibrant composition of Indian culture while continuing to impart precious Himalayan yogic wisdom for students. Don't miss out on the adventure. Subscribe to our YouTube channel Anu Tanu Indian Exploring Enthusiasts for more thrilling episodes. And remember to engage with us by liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. Until next time, keep holding the wonders of exploring ancient Indian wisdom for global kids. Thank you.